Can you hear me? Oh boy. Okay, so for some reason OBS muted my entire introduction, so I'm going to say everything again. Great. Anyways, guys, welcome to another stream. Today is going to be quite a bit different from what we used to have before. You know, usually we just sit around here, do some shit posting, and maybe a little bit of coding and something like that. But today I'm going to try and structure the stream as one giant tutorial, and I'm guessing it's going to take like maybe an hour and a half. Nothing extravagant like 4 hours that we used to have before. But yeah, for those of you who haven't, tuned into my previous social media announcements or haven't seen the news through the UPI, and today, and those of you who haven't read the title of the stream, but today we're going to be focusing on basically interfacing through Ruby with a database that's hosted online. And this is going to be the thing that's going to allow you to very simply create your own online functionality when it comes to your own games. And the nice thing is that Essentials already has a beautiful, sockets module built in, so you can easily post data to a site. And what we're going to do today is we're going to use the Ruby client, which is going to be our Essentials game, and we're going to interface through PHP. And the PHP script is going to be responsible for doing the SQL queries to our database. And in the interest of full disclosure, before we go any further, I just want to say, I'm not the end all be all when it comes to SQL knowledge or PHP knowledge. In fact, I've only started, playing, and I really mean the word playing around with this thing about 2 weeks ago, I think. But yeah, it was fascinating how simple it is to set up. So I don't know, I guess I wanted to share that with you guys. And today is nothing unscripted. Today is nothing scripted, but we have, I have a few bullet points that I want to go over. So I'm pretty much going to start off with going through the basic theory of what exactly it is that we want to do. Then I'm going to go over setting up a MySQL database through cPanel, because my web host uses cPanel. And if you have a web host that uses cPanel as well, that's going to be very nice. Then I'm going to go over some general MySQL theory. It's just going to be scratching the surface, nothing too comprehensive. Then we're going to be setting up a PHP script, which is going to be responsible for our queries and handling of the data that we post and giving us the data back. Then we're going to set up the Ruby client, which is the Essentials game project. We're going to use this client to make a post to the PHP script. And then we're going to process the post data to retrieve info from the database. So yeah, quite a bit on our plate. Hopefully we can get through this in a structured manner, I guess. But yeah, I totally forgot. I know I said something before I realized that my mic wasn't recording at all. But yeah, whatever. I guess we can just get into it. Now, yes, we're making some basic online battle thing. No, not battle thing, anything. So today's theory and the practice we're going to do today is just going to be very elementary stuff, very basic stuff. What you do with this knowledge depends entirely up to you. But I want to show you exactly how easy it is to set up some kind of online functionality using databases in your Essentials games. So I have this beautiful paint window right here that I'm going to use to illustrate some basic theory. And let me jot down the time. It's 12:40. Because I'm trying to do some timestamps later on. Right, so what is it exactly that we're trying to do? Well, let's say we have our database right here. I know my artistic skills with the mouse aren't the best, but this is our database. This database contains some sort of information. And then we have our client, which in this case is going to be our lovely game, our Essentials game. So what we want is some kind of communication between the two. Now, for this specific instance, we do need an intermediary step or an intermediary, handler that's going to, pass the request from one end to the other. And this is going to be our PHP script. So the PHP script is hosted on your web host. And what happens is your client makes a request that goes to the PHP script. your PHP script processes the request, creates a query, and then sends that query to the database. The database then processes the query, gets the results, sends it back to your PHP client, and your PHP echoes it back to your Ruby client. So it's very simple. And one thing to note is that the data in SQL databases is structured in tables. So we are going to have tables with rows and columns, which are going to contain our information. So what happens is that we are passing the request from the client and the data that we want to post to the PHP script. Then we write our logic in the PHP script. That goes to the database. The MySQL request gets handled there. The database searches the tables that we are trying to, get the information out of, and then poof, brings it back and brings it back down. So this is the basic rundown of what it is exactly we're going to do today. And maybe this middle part can be a bit more convoluted and more complicated than the other two, but this step and this step are definitely super easy. I don't think you should worry about this. You're not going to have any problems when it comes to this. But yeah, it's quite simple. Like I said before, I'm not going to go too in depth when it comes to databases. I'm just going to show you like the most basic functions that we're going to use and how to use them effectively and what they do. But the first thing is first, we actually want to set up a database. So this again entirely depends on your web hosting provider. Let me actually, the chat is a bit too wide on the screen. I'm going to try and shrink it down a bit. But yeah, so this is going to depend on your web hosting solution. For the most part, most of the web hosting solutions out there have this cPanel, and setting up things in cPanel is extremely easy. So what you want to do is you want to go into MySQL databases and set up a new database. So today, for testing purposes, we're going to name our database test. I'm just going to click on create database. Now we need a user that's going to access this database and that's going to work with this database. So again, user, I'm going to go test, or I had this set up test user. Password, I'm going to go A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F6, because my hosting provider requires a more, I guess serious password. E5, F6. So now we can go and click create a user. So now we have both a database, which we can see right here, and we have another user, which we can see right here. Now the thing is, we need to add users to the database. So we need to add a user and give them permission to access certain parts of the database. So what you do is, again, in your cPanel, you go here, you select your test user, add to database test, and then you add. And then you get this thing right here, which is the permissions you're giving to your user. So you can give them permissions to alter tables, to create temporary tables, to delete tables, and stuff like that. For this tutorial in particular, we actually are going to mainly focus on select, which is going to be retrieving data from the tables in the database. We're going to focus on insert, which is going to be the process of putting in the data inside the tables. And then we're also going to use the update, which is used to exchange the data inside of a table to a new value. So I'm going to click on save changes, and that's it. It's that easy. We can go back. And the next thing we're going to go access is the PHP MyAdmin. And this is basically your database, which I can't see for some reason. Let me check MySQL databases. Okay, so I got this in here. I got the users, but this thing is not refreshing. That's sweet. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed unlimited amount of databases on my thing. Wait, give me a second. Let me try and figure this out off screen. This worked just a moment ago. I tested this out, so I don't know why this thing is tripping me up now. We're going to use the, what's its face? We're going to use the UPI database. I don't want to spend too much time on things not working on the stream as it is right now. So let me just quickly add the test user to the UPI database, and then we can continue with our stuff. So I'm going to go select, update, insert, make changes, and that's it. I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to put you guys back on. Okay, so this is the PHP MyAdmin, and it's an extremely simple thing to do. So we have set up our database. We have this database right here. I have my UPI right here, and I'm going to show you exactly what you can do, how you can do it, and what it is that we want to do. But yeah, before we go any further, I guess we do want to brush up on some MySQL theory. So the thing is, wait, let me connect to this. So I've uploaded a test PHP just file in advance to my server so we can quickly access it. So the thing is this: we want to be able to retrieve data from a database. We want to be able to put data into a database, and we want to be able to update data that's already inside of a database. So the thing in databases is the language it uses. MySQL as a language is extremely intuitive. It's written just as much as you would, think about something, or I don't know, speak of something, right? So the command to retrieve data from a table inside of a database is the select command. So what we can do is we can select something, and for now I'm going to select all. So this star is going to denote everything. So we're going to select all from, and then you give it the table name. So let's say we have a test table right here, and then we're going to select everything from test table. And this is as simple as it gets. So it's just as it sounds, right? It's going to select everything from test table. But like I said, everything is set up in tables. So what happens is you can have columns and you can have rows. So let's say we have the rows or the columns for name, the columns for surname, and the columns for, I don't know, age. So these are going to be the columns inside of our database. So what happens if we want to select the column name from our test table? So what you can do is you can select and just, select the name from the test table. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a new table, which is going to have only the columns that you've selected from the original database, from the original table, and it's going to print out all the results as rows that are inside of the table itself. And what you can do is you can separate multiple selections that you want to take with a comma, which is also nice. So you can manually go, select this, or you can select all. And this is pretty much the most frequent, I think, command you're going to use when it comes to your databases. And I'm going to also show later when we go through the actual writing of the PHP script. I'm going to show you exactly how to do some conditional branches and some more things when it comes to what kind of data you're selecting from your tables or what information you're selecting from there. And then the next one, like I've said, is going to be the insert. And this is again going to be very simple as well. It's going to be insert into, and then you're going to specify the table you're inserting into. So insert into test table, and then inside of parentheses, you're going to type down the column names. So name and surname, let's say we just want to insert these two, and then you're going to specify values. So you're going to specify values, and then in the parentheses, we're going to go, let's say something like this, and what this is going to do is it's going to insert into the test table. It's going to insert the name and the surname for these two rows. So we're going to get Luca, SJ, right here. And again, on top of these, you can add conditional branches and stuff like that. But it's very simple stuff. It's very simple stuff. And then you can also do the final one that I've mentioned is the update function, which is going to be update, and then you're going to specify the test table. or your table name. But again, our names are going to be very simple. And then we're going to set the value for, and then we're going to write down the name of our row, which is going to be the name is equal to, and then Luca. And again, after this, you can have some conditional stuff right here, which I'm going to go into everything else a bit later. But this is actually a nice segue into the PHP writing of the entire interaction that we're going to have. So we are first going to need to create a PHP script, which like I've perfectly illustrated in here in my beautiful painting. The PHP script is going to be responsible for the interfacing of our requests with the database. So what we want to do is we first want to denote the beginning of a PHP script and the end of one. And now we want to set up some variables. So I'm going to comment this and say config variables. And what we're going to use, we need a server name to which we're going to connect. And since we're pasting directly to my web host and my server and my website, we want to use the localhost. But from my experience, I've noticed that just typing in localhost can give you some connection issues. So I'm going to type out the IP address for the localhost, which is as simple as this. And note that the syntax for PHP is a bit different from Ruby. Each line needs to have a semicolon at the end, and you declare variables with what will be considered a global variable sign in Ruby. So again, strings are the same as always, but you need to end your lines with colons. This syntax is more similar to something like C, C#, and the JavaScript, Java itself, and those kind of things. Then we're going to need a username, which is going to connect to our database. And this was Luca SJCO, if I'm not mistaken, test for our test username. We're going to specify the password, and I'm going to go into this a bit later, why this isn't a problem in particular. So I said it's A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F6. And we are also going to specify our database name, which, if I'm not mistaken, again is Luca SJCO, and this is the UPI database because my new one is not working as of right now. I don't know what's up. But yeah, these are basically the 4 parameters you're going to need to make a valid MySQL connection. And the reason why I've said is this isn't a big deal if you're writing everything in plain text like this is depending on your web hosting solution, of course, as well. You can have PHP protection. So this entire script is going to be invisible to anyone that's trying to access it. Only the server knows the contents of this thing. So leaving up your password and the username like this, it's not going to give you any kind of backdoor to your database. But yeah, this is going to be the main thing that we're going to use to connect to the database. And how we connect to the database is, again, very simple. We're going to say create connection. And I do want to mention that everything I write today is going to be, I'm going to upload it on Pastebin and link it in the video description, as well as wherever else I remember to link it. So do not fear. So the way we set up a connection, we're going to specify the connection, and the connection is going to be, so it's very simple. There's a few simple commands that you do in PHP to interface with your database. So we're going to go MySQL _ connect, and then we're going to go connect to the server name with the username and the password. And we're going to use those to connect to the database, which is DB name. And that's it. This is our connection right now. And what you can do is you can easily also create some kind of fail-safe mechanism, I guess, that's going to check whether or not the connection has been formed properly. So we can do something to check connection, I guess. And what we can do here is if it's not connected, we're going to tell this script to die. I mean, that's the function. That this is exactly what it does. So what the die function does is it aborts the script and it returns whatever message you put into it. So we're going to go failed, and that's it. So in case a connection wasn't formed, the script is going to die and it's going to tell our client back again that, yo, your connection failed. So that's it. And this is it. This is the beginning of what you have to do on at your PHP script. The next parts are pretty much concerned with the the essentials thingy. So to keep today's stream very simple, what I've done is I've already prepared one part of the project, which is the scripts part. So if I go down here, I've added the file handlers from the UPI, and I've added this little thing right here. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing all the scripts in my scripts folder right here and evaluating them. And I've done this in order to keep everything simple so I can edit everything through Notepad++ today. And again, if the text is too small, let me know. Yeah, Le Mans. Nice spot, Marian. Nice spot. And see, now it lights up blue. Yeah, typos, you know, like I always say, we make the noob mistakes so you guys don't have to. Again, this tutorial is not scripted. I was kind of, you know, fearing this exact thing, you know. Yeah. There's no second takes. Everything has to be perfect the first time around. I mean, we had this fail with the microphone, and then we had the fail with the database, and now I bet I'm going to have a fail with the connection right here, but whatever. Anyway, as I was saying, you guys, if the text for the code is too small, just let me know so I can blow it up. This is why I'm using Notepad++, and to keep everything centralized in one nice place. So this is going to be our main script area that we're going to use to post stuff to the database and retrieve stuff from the database. But let's go back into the actual database stuff. So with the PHP My Admin right here, you can easily create tables, easily create new tables. And you have this option right here at the bottom, create table, the name of the table, and then the number of columns. Now, let's go back into my excellent drawing area. The thing about SQL tables is this. So let me get back to here. So we have a nice big table. Pro artist skills right here. So each of these here is going to be a row, and each row is going to contain certain data, and these columns right here are going to specify the type of data that we put into each rows for each columns. Now, the thing is this, it's important to know that for databases, you need to have something that's called the primary key, which is going to be a unique identifier for each of your entries inside of your database. So the thing is, one of our rows is going to be a unique key, which is going to be the ID of each table, or of each row, which is basically going to be there to later, which we're not going to go into, but you can do some fancy indexing when it comes to your tables, and it improves performance and stuff like that. But we're going to have very, very crude examples right here and very, very basic stuff. And you can do a lot of things with just basically setting up tables. But what happens is you have a unique key which is going to identify each row. And then what happens is if you have another table which has its own set of columns and rows, this table can then, in one of its rows, what it can do is it can reference a certain key from another table. So what you can do is you can form relations between the different tables inside of the database. And we're not going to do that today. Like I said, it's going to be very basic stuff, but we are going to use primary keys to be able to provide a unique identifier for our table. But what this would do is basically inside of this row, if I were to fetch the information from this row, and then the key, the foreign key right here would be identified as 2, then this would fetch back to the original table right here and then get the data from here. And depending on how you join different tables and you use different commands, it's going to give you a certain result. But yeah, so we're always going to have one column which is going to be our unique ID. And let's say in our example, we use name, surname, and age, I guess. So we're going to have 4 columns in total. And the name is going to be test table, like we've said before. And I'm just going to click on go to create the table. And now I have the test table right here. 4 columns, that you can see right here. And I know at the beginning it can be a bit jarring, but it's actually not very difficult to grasp your head around the user interface. So like I said, the first column is going to be our unique identifier for each of our elements inside of our table, which is going to be of the type integer. So this is pretty much like casting data types to variables in languages like C. You're going to have to do it here as well. And what we're going to do is, of course, this cannot be null, so it cannot be left blank. And we're going to use this, which is going to be the auto increment function. And this is going to set our primary key for this ID in particular, which is nice. It does it automatically. You don't need to do any fancy, because all of this usually you have to do by writing certain SQL commands. So you have to create tables and stuff like that, which we're not going to go into today. I think that you don't particularly need it. I think you can get away with just manually creating tables in some kind of graphical interface, and then the only thing that you do later on is referencing stuff. So yeah, we're going to have our ID, which is going to be an integer, and it's going to be a primary key, and it's going to auto increment. So it means every time I insert a new value into the table, it's going to give it the ID number automatically. So I don't need to worry about that. And whenever I insert into table, I don't need to specify a specific ID. I mean, you could do it manually. You could specify a ID manually, but this just automates the process. It makes your life easier, basically, you don't need to think about this. And then we said we're going to have name as one of our columns. And this is going to be of type text. Surname, which is also going to be of type text. And age, which I said. And I don't know, let's keep this as an integer. And then what I can do is I can just hit save. And poof, we have a new test table created right here. Now, if I were to click on the test table right here, it's going to show this. So what it does is it's using a SQL command right here, which is going to select all, as we've said before, from test table right here. And as you can see, we have no data inside of our test table. So what I can do is, just for testing purposes, I can go into insert right here. So name, Marin, surname, bad scripts, and then age 10. So if I click go right here, you're going to see that the PHP MyAdmin has executed a command insert into test table, just as we've talked about before. ID, which is going to be auto incrementing value, name, surname, age, and the value for those is going to be Marin, bad scripts 10. And the first one is null because the database is going to assign a ID number automatically, because we set the auto increment before, just like this. So if I go back into test table right now, and it does select all from test table, you can see that right here we have name Marin, surname bad scripts, and age 10. So it's very simple. Using PHP MyAdmin is an extremely simple way to create tables and to add values into your tables, and as well as to edit stuff that's already inside of your table, or to just delete entries from your table. Because like I said again, all of these commands are going to go through the MySQL language, and they're going to have their own individual commands, but here you can do it graphically. So I think this is very nice when it comes to that. But yeah, so now we have this entry right here. And yeah, let's start working on our Ruby script to be able to interface with our PHP script right here. So what I've done here is I've created this new module called database. And the reason why I've created a new module is because I want to neatly package everything into just one location. So I don't want to have to write out the URL every single time, and I don't want to have to, concern myself with these unimportant things in general. So I'm going to specify the URL this thing is going to post to, which is going to be HTTP, and it's going to be my site /downloads, if I'm not mistaken, /UPI /test.php. So that's going to be our URL. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a new function, which is going to be make request. And then we're going to specify the type of request, and I'm going to show you exactly why later, and the data we're going to be passing to the request. So one field I always want to, the reason we're setting up, okay, maybe I should backtrack a bit. So the data we're sending is going to be formatted in a hash, because this is the data that the pb post data function uses, and everything that we're going to be fetching from our post request inside of this PHP script right here is also going to be a hash. So it's very nice when it comes to comparing exactly what stuff we're fetching. So we're going to concern ourselves with hashes, with the keys. And if you haven't watched my previous tutorials, I do have one on how to use a hash in Ruby. So that's what I've done here is I've defined a data hash, which is going to be a variable we're passing into so it's going to be one of the arguments we're passing into the function. But if it's not defined, it's just going to return a blank hash. And then I'm going to go and say data type. So this is going to be key identifier type is going to be equal to type. And I'll explain the significance of this right now. So the way we grab our post requests or anything that we post into the PHP script right here is very simple. What you do is everything is posted to a variable. So you go post and your key, and that's it. And the reason why we're setting up the data structures as hashes is that we can use these very simple data types. So everything translates nicely one-to-one to our PHP script. So our type of the PHP request is going to be equal to post, and the key is going to be type. So much like you would consider a hash in Ruby, this is what you would do in PHP as well. And the reason we want to post a type of request that we're making is because we want this PHP script to execute certain commands depending on the type of request that we're doing. So for example, for my UPI, I have different types of requests. You can register an online ID, you can fetch the ratings of a plugin, you can fetch the comments, you can post comments. So what we can do is simply set up conditional branches right here. So if type is, for example, I don't know, get test subjects. So if the type is get test subjects, then we're going to execute a certain SQL query. And again, like I've said before, you do select blah 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 blah. But of course in this thing right here, you do have to specify certain additional steps when it comes to the data you're extracting. So our query is going to be MySQLi query. We're going to post the query to the connection that we've opened, and then we're going to type out our query right here. So this is going to be our query, and for testing purposes, we're going to go select all from test table. So we're going to get all our data from the test table, but this is not enough because this is not going to be formatted. This is not going to be formatted correctly. You're going to get a table, which even if you pass into your Ruby client, it's just not going to be able to interpret it. So we do have some additional steps. So we have to iterate through each of the rows that are returned from the request that we've basically posted to the database, because this is going to post the request to the database. Like we've seen on this thing right here, it's the same command. So it's the same command as this, which is going to give us all this data back. So if I go back here, now we have this problem of wanting to extract individual rows, and we can simply do this in a while loop. So we can do while and then specify the row is going to be MySQLi fetch associated. So we're going to fetch associated, and we're going to fetch associated from the query that we've specified before. And we're going to close this, create a new block. And now during each of these iterations of the while loop, we're going to have certain outcomes from the row. So the row again is going to be another hash. So what you can do is row, because if we go back into our structure of our table right here, we have name, surname, and age. So if I were to go into my code right here and type in name, it's only going to give me the individual row datas that are under the column name, if that makes sense. If you guys are not following me, just let me know. I'll slow down and try and explain this better. But But again, I don't know, to me it seems a bit simple. But yeah, basically row name would be the row with the so data that's stored in the row under the column name. Row surname would be the surname, and so forth, so on and so forth. Or we can select, just because we don't want the ID, let's say for this example, it's not very interesting to us, I guess. So we can go select name, surname, and age. So now we have these columns right here, which are going to be these things right here. Now, we do have one tiny problem. The tiny problem is that we need to be able to pack everything in this while loop into one string, because you're only going to give your client, so your Ruby client, you're only going to give them the string back, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but you can get around this. So in PHP, you have this function called echo. So everything you echo inside of this thing right here, which is going to be a string, is going to be appended to a string, and it's going to be output as a string, which is then going to go back to your client. And also I do want to mention, which I forgot to do at the beginning, but you know what, let's do it right here. We got to do MySQL underscore close, because you do want to close the connection after you're done with your script. We're not using die here because we don't want the PHP script necessarily to crash, because it's going to crash after the first entry or the first row inside of our database, which is no bueno right now. So we're going to use echo, which is going to append everything to the output string. So let's say we want to append everything. So name, surname, age, and everything else. Now we're going to need to be a bit creative. And again, this is going to depend completely on you and how you want to separate your data. But inside of the echo, let's say we want to pass the row of name. So we want to pass our name, but this is not the only thing we want to pass. So the way you fuse strings together, so in Ruby, if you were to do, let's go back here, if you were to do a string is equal to 1 and then space, and if you do +2, it's going to output basically this thing right here. So it's going to be like this, 1 and 2. So this is how you join strings together. Very simple. In PHP, it's a bit weird. I've never seen this before, but you do it using a full stop. So row, not full stop. And then let's do row surname, full stop. And we're going to go row age. And that's it. But now we have another problem, and the problem is, yes, okay, that's very nice, but if we have multiple entries inside of our database, we have no way of knowing like where the name begins and ends, or where the surname begins, or where the new row begins, you know. So we pretty much have nothing. So what I like to do is I like to split each row with this. So we're going to split each row with RN. And in between the different parts, I like to add section breaks, which I denote like this. So if I go like so, what we're going to end up is we're going to have an output string that's going to go Marin. It's going to go like this. Marin, what did I say? Something script sucks. Sucky scripts. I don't know. Sucks. Age is going to be 10. And then we're going to have the break, which is going to be RN. So this is going to be our output string right here if we were to execute this query and this function like so. And this is nice because then your Ruby client is going to receive this, and then you know exactly, aha, so this is a section, I could split it by here, I could split it with this, I could split it with this. So now we have options. Now we have options, and it's nice to keep this in mind and keep these options. So if we go back into our main thingy right here, actually, let's go back to the database. So we're going to have the data type, and we're going to post data or not, I guess. I don't know if we want to. Again, it depends on what exactly it is you want to post to the database, but I'm going to give some more examples as well. So yeah, let's go back to the database. So what you want to do is now you want to make a request, which is going to be pb post data. The data is going to be posted to the URL we specified above, and the data we're posting is going to be data. So this type is going to get added to our hash, which is nice. And actually I can just return this already. So if I were to go here and go P and then go database, because we now have a valid module, database make request, and the request name I think was get test subjects. Yes. If I go like this, we should be getting a valid request. Now again, this is a live stream. It's not premeditated. I don't know if I don't know if something is gonna go wonky in the process, but let's hope not. So if I were to go back to my essentials, run the game.exe, I should get, there we go. And it actually worked first time round. So you can see I'm not that big of a scrub, as you all might think. But yeah. So we can see that the connection to our database is established. It's working. We can make a valid post request and we can get valid data from our database. And this is it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Tutorial is done. No. Okay, we're going to, I'm going to show you some, I guess, tips and tricks or something like that. But again, you just saw it's extremely simple. Like you can create this kind of stuff in mere minutes. It really, you don't need to overcomplicate things. If you want to store more information, you can just create new tables and store it in there. But yeah, basically we have the output that we wanted, and this is going to close now because that's how I've made it. But yeah, our script works. So this is nice. So what we can do is actually we can go like, let's go lines is going to be equal. And then we're going to split the request we got by the thing that we specified right here, which is going to be what we append to the end of each string. So now we have this. So we're going to get each lines. And if I were to go p lines, I can save this. This is going to create a new array, and I'm going to have my data structured inside of the array. But this is not everything, right? Because we want to split these guys as well by the S thingy denominator, whatever I specified before. So what we can do is we can go, let's go like this. Rec is going to be like this. And I'm going to create a new lab thingy right here. I'm going to go for R in rec, which is going to iterate through each of the lines. And I'm going to do lines.push. I'm going to do r.split, split. And let's get this right, like so. And if I were to print out the lines now, you can see that all our data is split appropriately. So we don't have to worry about any troubles. There we go. So we have an array, we have Marin, bad scripts, and then we have this. Perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. This is probably everything that you need. There we go, tutorial over. You're welcome, guys. No problems. Joking. Let's say we want to make a request that's going to enter data into our database. So I'm going to comment this out right now for this receive, I don't know, this reads the data from the table, and go with this writes data to table. So what we're going to go is we're going to have data, and we're going to create a new hash. Very exciting stuff, I know. And going to go like this. Name is going to be Luca. I'm going to go surname, SJ, and age. I'm going to, oops, what's with me typing? All of a sudden, I'm still 24, so I'm going to go with 24, and we're going to close the data. And then I'm going to go into database, make request, add test subject, and we're going to have to define a new conditional branch in our PHP script for this in particular, and we're going to pass it the data. So our PHP request is set up. Now we have the issue of defining the proper code inside of our PHP script that's going to process our request. So if we go back into our PHP script right here, I'm going to go else if type is equal to add test subject. And now we're going to do a completely different thing. So again, conditional branches is very simple. So I want to fetch certain variables. So I'm going to first fetch name is going to be, like we've mentioned above, post. And again, since this is a hash as well, boom. So we got our name. Surname is going to be post surname. Very simple again. And age is going to be post age. Boom. Very simple. So this is just the basic setup that we want to have to start with. It's very simple. So now we have extracted our values from inside of our hash, which is nice, and we have them as variables right here, which is doubly nice. So it's quadruple nice to use, I think. And then we have to make a corresponding SQL query, of course. So this time I'm not retrieving any data, so I don't need to store the results of the SQL query anywhere in particular. I just need to be able to tell the SQL web database and tell the table, you know, just do something with my variables. So what I'm going to do is my SQLi query, because you have to make a query, and we're going to use our connection that we've established before. And now we're going to go insert into test table. So we're inserting values into test table. And we're going to, what did we say? We have, so the ID is going to be given to us automatically. We don't need to worry about that. But we do need to worry about the other stuff because we haven't specified that we can leave them blank. So we're going to go, we're going to give it the name, surname, because these are our column names, and age. So again, these right here are going to correspond to your table structure right here. So name, surname, age. So we have this. We're going to insert into test table, and we're going to insert a name, a surname, and age. So these are going to be inserted into a new row, but we're going to give the columns certain values. And how we define these values, we go values, and then we put in the values. Now, the thing is, we need to convert implicitly these into strings, these variable names. So it's very simple. You just do this. Name, comma, surname, age, and boom. Now you passed in variables into your database, and you can be happy. And don't forget to put this, right? You need the semicolon, syntax, very important. And if I were to save this, I save this, and the next time I run Essentials, I should do 2 requests. One to post data into the database and one to get it back. So as you can see, the speeds are incredibly nice. Everything gets done super quickly, and we've it's almost instantaneous. As soon as we made a request to add new data into our table, we've made a request to get data out of our table back again. And as you can see, we have Marin, Bad Scripts, 10, Luca, SJ, 24. And if I were to go into my thing right here, go back into our test table, you can see we've successfully added, there we go. Boom. Very simple, very easy. And the reason why I'm not going to go over things like creating tables, creating relations between tables, or deleting stuff from your database is, I think, for your safety, I mean for the safety of your game, you don't want to give the users access to malicious potential, right? You don't want them to be able to destroy your database or like expand your database in a way you don't want them to. So I would highly suggest to restrict not only the access, but the functionality that you give your players when they're actually inside of your game. And if you have online functionality like this, you don't want to give them unlimited access. You pretty much want to limit them as to keep your information safe. So we have this, we can get test subjects, we can add test subjects, but what if we want to modify a test subject? I've also mentioned that we're going to go over this as well. So if I go else if, and then let's say our new type is going to be modify test subject. this gets a bit complicated. So let's say we want to modify the name of a certain individual. And so we're going to fetch the name for now. Post name. Boom. Very simple. This part is very simple. But the next thing is, again, we need to look at the logic and what exactly it is that we want to do. So let's say we want to alter the name of a user, but you want to alter the name of a specific user. And we know that our users have been identified with unique identification numbers. So each one of these is going to be unique and never duplicated. So what we can do is we can tell the database, hey, modify the name of a row, but only where the ID is equal to exactly this. And this is what I said before when it comes to conditionals that you can do. So again, we can do a quick MySQL query. MySQL SQLi query. And again, as well, oops, not Kuhn and friends, but connection. And then we're going to specify our query right here. So if we want to modify the value that's inside of this thing right here, we're going to use update. And we're going to specify the table, which is test table, of course. Update test table. And also for those of you guys who are more curious, I've linked tutorials in the description below. So you can already, I don't know if you're following this or just listening to the voice, you can check those out. But yeah, you have the, I've linked the W3 schools for both PHP and MySQL, and they have way more documentation than I have time to go over this thing right here. But yeah, basically we want to update certain values in the test table. So we want to set a name to whatever we've extracted from our post. So we're going to update the test table, and we're going to set name to be the variable that we've extracted from our new post. But we don't, if we just do this, all of the names in our table are going to be updated. So how exactly can you check where it is that you want to update the tables, the rows for? And it's very simple. Again, it's very intuitive. It's exactly like you would speak. So you would update test tables and set the name to be name where, and then we have our ID is going to be equal to, let's say in this case, 1. So if our ID is 1, it's going to update the test table and set the name, the row name, I mean the column name for the row to be the thing that we've put in here. So this is our tiny script. It's going to ID. Actually, let's do this dynamically. So we're going to also extract a ID from the post. So post, and then we're going to have ID, where ID is going to be equal to ID. So we can specify it on the fly and use 2 scenarios in here right now. So what we can do is this writes data to the table. Now we don't want this. We want name to be scrub Lord, and we're going to give it an ID where the ID is going to be 1. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to change Marin's name to Scrub Lord. It's very important. Yeah. In fact, we can actually put this as an integer. Haha, which is also nice. Again, data types get transferred, which is nice. And what did we say? We said modify test subject, right? Yes, modify test subject. And if I were to do this here and execute so this is saved now, my script is saved, my PHP script is saved as well. My database thing remains constant. I don't care about that for now. And if I were to start my essentials game again, there we go. Scrublord, bad scripts, 10, Luca, SJ, 24. And again, if I want to change this to Kami-sama and set this for myself, if I were to execute this again, boom, Kami-sama, SJ, 24. So as you can see, first of all, the efficiency and the speed of this thing is insanely nice. It's super fast and everything else. And if we go back into our table, you can see as well, there we go, Scrublord, bad scripts, Kami-sama, SJ, and then we got the ages, and we can separate the data. We found a way to extract everything. And to be honest, like, this is it. This is the trick. This is pretty much it. This is everything. These are the entire building blocks of everything that you need to be able to add all kinds of crazy online functionality to your, basically to your own games or to your own Ruby projects or wherever you're using this thing. If you guys have any specifics you would like me to tackle right now, this is the part where we interact with the... Is there a way to set the maximum amount of requests for a client? No, it depends on your web host. The thing is, some web hosts impose a hard limit. Some web hosts allow you to set a certain bandwidth that you can allocate to the amount of requests you can make. And some web hosts just have an unlimited amount of requests you can make. The thing is, with my web host, for example, I have a limited set of how many bytes a client can post to the PHP file before getting timed out. And again, with those socket scripts, let's actually go into essentials for a little bit. If you go into modules, sock, or class, sock, I forget. Yeah, class socket. So if I go into here, where's the PB post data? Ah, there we go. PB post data is going to be HTTP request, and if we go down here, sometimes you're going to get error codes thrown into your face. And if you get an error code of, I think it's 429, so error code HTTP error 429 means that your client is making too many requests to the website, and the website is saying, oh, no thanks, man, no thanks, not that many requests. But usually it's just a matter of seconds when it comes to how many requests, like how long the timeout period lasts. Like I said, for me, I think my limit is, I think for my web host, it's 8,192 kilobytes per 10 seconds or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that. But of course, some web hosts to preserve bandwidth to protect themselves from DDoSs, and especially if you have additional security layers, they can prevent you from just executing, I don't know, a billion database requests at once. But Essentials is going to notify you of that. If you get a error request 429, you know you're making too many PHP post requests. But yeah, guys, just feel free to bombard me with any questions while you have the time right now. Like I said, I'm only going to go over because I can't think of, I don't know, I can't think of much else. But I did want to cover, like, when it comes to, let's just do this stuff in theory. I did want to cover the basic of the basics for this thing. So the basic theory: setting up a MySQL database, some MySQL theory maybe, making a PHP script, setting up your Ruby client, and then the posts and the processing of data. Can you post these 3 scripts on Discord? Right now, no, I can't right now because my Discord is, I'm trying to preserve my CPU as much as possible. So I have only a few tasks open on my laptop right now because last time I've had too much running, performance wasn't that good and my laptop tends to overheat. But I will, as soon as the stream is finished, I'll send you everything that you need, do not worry. But as you can see, it's extremely simple. It's extremely simple. I urge you to, if you want to dabble in this thing, of course, this is completely optional. You don't have to do anything. But if you want to dabble in this stuff, I'd advise you to check out the links I've linked below to learn more about the general PHP syntax and how to do stuff in PHP, and to learn about the MySQL syntax and what you can do with databases, because I've not, to be honest, I've not even scratched the surface. We've only gone through 3 distinct functions, I would say, for MySQL. These are, of course, the most common because, I don't know, for the most part, you do want to have this interaction of posting data and getting data back and stuff like that. But again, there's so much more that you can do. And database optimizations, again, is another big part. And database and the relations between tables and entities inside of a database. Again, this is, I mean, you have entire books written about this stuff. So there's definitely a lot more material that is there when it comes to the stuff you can do. But this was supposed to be a noob-friendly tutorial, a very, for noobs, by noobs, keep it noobing. But yeah, if you guys have any particular requests you'd like me to post to my database, or I don't know, some quick questions you may have, let me know now while we're still here. Again, the next part, pretty much like these are the basics, but it comes down to your creativity, I think. Depends on how you want to structure your whole system in general. Because for the UPI, for example, I have anti-identity theft security measures and things like that. So it can be a bit more complicated, and then we have this whole process of being able to ban certain users, for malicious behavior and stuff like that. Or if you're trying to access the database from an unregistered client, it kicks you out and stuff like that. But that depends mostly on your script and what exactly it is that you're trying to do. I do urge you to keep your database requests and the processing of data inside of a self-contained module, something like this, and not do something like this. So for example, let's rewrite this. Let's create a new, add test subject. So if I go make a new def right here, self.add test subject. So we want to give it a name, surname, and age. So these are going to be our arguments that we're passing into our function. Let me just reposition myself on the chair. I'm slipping out. So this is basically the most optimal way that you should be doing things. Oops. So we're going to go data right here. The key is going to be name. This is going to be name. Surname, age, and if we close it like this, we can do self dot make request, and the request is, I think I copied it, yes, modify test subject, self dot make request, and data. So now we don't need to have all of this. We can just go database dot, add test subject. So if I go database.add test subject, and name Smithy 30, and if I were to use this, execute this, post the data, we're going to get Smithy into our database, and this didn't work. Okay, so what did I mess up? Add test subject type, I'm pretty sure that's this. Self.add test subject. Oh, I modify test subject. Okay, my bad. It's add test subject. So if I were to execute this right now, boom, Smithy 30 right here. This is what I would highly recommend. I would recommend having a separate module like this, so that you can keep everything neat and organized, because again, you don't want to have to data this, data that, data blah, blah, just keep on spamming your scripts where you can have one nice line to do what it is that you want to do. So having stuff self-contained like this is very simple, very nice. Same thing with the make request. I think this is good. This is good, Gucci, I think. What does this guy say? It goes without saying that the table can be modified by operator functions as well. The operator functions like plus and stuff like that. Yes. I'm pretty sure. Don't know exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, you can increment stuff. Is, let's say, as one example, is what you meant, right? And I'm pretty sure I have one right here. I'm trying to look at my reference files. But I can't see it. Yeah, I can't. There's so much to scroll through. But yeah, look, if we just go like stack, overflow, add one to row, entry, MySQL. So counter, there you go. Insert into blah, 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 blah. Or just the update request +1 where ID is equal to, and of course. So yes, you can do increments and stuff like that. It's very, I think the SQL languages in general is it's very simplistic when it comes to these things. It's not too difficult to figure out. But yeah, of course you can. And again, you don't need to do your incrementations. Like for example, if you wanna, I don't know, add a string or something like that, there's all sorts of things you can do. When it comes to, or for example, you can first, I don't know, extract stuff, store it in an array, and then check for the array whether or not it corresponds, like to check if someone should be banned or something like that. I don't know. It depends on what it is exactly that you want to do. But yeah, of course, it goes without saying that you can modify it with operator functions. Can I see database.rb again? I mean, you can access database.rb, or wait, this database.rb? Okay, sure. I'm going to keep it up on screen right now. Hello, Nox mods. But could anyone just come in your test PHP file and get your username? You said they couldn't, but I don't see why not. Again, I've said they couldn't. Let me demonstrate. lucasj.com. Unless they have strict access to the FTP thing that's going to, like it's not there. You need specific access to the file itself to access it, like I have right here with the net FTP, Node++ FTP connected server thingy right here, so I can access it. But yeah, you can definitely check it. Nox mods, I think you've come to the completely wrong stream. You should check elsewhere. Yeah. But for the most part, the PHP, again, like I've said before, and I'm going to iterate again, most of the security layers are going to depend on your web host. My web host offers full SSL, PHP security and stuff like that. It's a pretty dope thingy. But actually, I just thought of something. Let's say you're worried about your data being stolen, like you are, right? And let's say you want to encrypt the data. Yeah, that'd be interesting, right? So what you can do is in the SQL stuff, you can pretty much use encryption to AES encryption to encrypt your data. Who knew? And secure stuff that you're putting in. And this is actually, I'm actually using this for my own database for the UPI, because again, if there was by some miracle an attack on such a famous database like the Universal Plugin Installer, the data would be pretty much unreadable. It's not in plain text. And let's actually demonstrate this. So in here, for insert into test table, we're going to encrypt these guys. And the way you encrypt things is very simple. There is a function for it, AES, and if I could spell it, encrypt. And then we're going to encrypt the name. And you need an encryption key. Now this, the tricky part is keeping this guy safe, because you want to keep this guy safe. Like, I don't know, this is going to be your safety key. So this key is going to be used to generate the encrypted entry, and is going to be used to get the stuff back from the encryption. And the exact opposite would be decrypt. So very simple, very intuitive, very self-explanatory, I think. But yeah, if you're paranoid about some stuff, you can generate keys that you would need to store somewhere secretly, I guess, or have some kind of global key that's accessed from elsewhere that nobody else could see or something like that. But let's say we're going to encrypt this, and we're going to add another entry, Timmons, and this guy's going to be 20 years old. And if I were to make my post right now, we should get a jumble of mess right here. See, this is completely messed up. I mean, you can't see anything. And if I were to go back into my SQL thing right here, again, it's illegible. So you have no idea what's in this field right here. It's not in plain text, but you can get it back. It's quite simple. So you go like this. Where is our field right here where we get stuff? Right, name. Okay. Name, and then you go AES decrypt name, and our key was what? Luke. So if I were to try and access it like this, and let's actually comment this one out because we don't want multiple additions to our thingy. If I were to comment this now, Get this now, you get nothing, 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 nothing. So select ASD crypt name. What did I mess up? Wait. Like I said, noob. But I have a reference point right here. Right. This is only going to fetch the what's his face. The column names. Let me just check real quick. What did I say? I don't exactly know where I'm going with this. Wait. But this is your own website. What would I use if I weren't using yours? Again, I mean, this is a conundrum that you have to solve for yourself, right? You need to be able to find a host, I guess, and deal with it. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, we're talking about online functionality. You have to store, you have to be able to, first of all, you need to find a place that you can store a database, and then you need to find a place that you can store your PHP scripts, and then you need to find a way to be able to access those. And again, of course, the web hosting solution, a dedicated web hosting solution would be the best solution. But it doesn't have to be the only one. I haven't looked into other ones. I only know this, it's a pay-to-win system. You pay for a good web host, you get good services. So if you want to do this stuff, you want to have your own website is what I'm saying. You want to have your own host. You preferably want to have your own domain and things like that. Because you want to be the only one that has access to this kind of stuff. And yeah, this is not going to work from a Google Drive. Again, I don't even know how PHPMyAdmin sets up the database, where the files are and stuff like that, but it's kind of complicated when it comes to this. So if you find a web hosting solution that does this stuff for you automatically and very simply, something like this, something that has cPanel or PHPMyAdmin, you're going to be winning. PHP is hard to steal anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I missed about the first 30 minutes of the stream, so I don't know if this was touched on, but are there ways to modify the files from essential scripts or the event themselves? Say if I wanted to store certain game data online for future references, how could I go about that? You can expand on that, feel free to. I mean, this isn't supposed to be an essentials tutorial, it's supposed to be an online database thingy, but yeah, sure, you can modify everything. Files from, I mean, okay, sure. You're asking if you can modify files from essential scripts or the events themselves. Sure, but you'd have to give me give me a real world scenario, because events are saved in your data folder to your data files, your map files right here, right? So you want to open these, read these, and then inject data into these depending on what you have on your database. So this becomes a more difficult process, not because the interfacing with the databases through PHP is difficult or the SQL is difficult itself, but rather what you're trying to achieve is a bit more difficult. So you're going to have a method to, I don't know, open. So you're first going to have to open map data. You're going to have to read contents. Read and actually cache contents from map data. You're going to have to retrieve I before E except after C, right? Retrieve data from SQL database, and then you're going to have to inject said data into map, and then you're going to have to save new map data rather into cached. So you get it. There's several layers that you would have to go through this in order to get your functionality up. Storing save data and being able to overwrite. Yeah. So of course, everything in your project itself is editable. Because how else do you get all these kinds of stuff, and how else do you save stuff to the RX data? But it depends on exactly how you read the data and stuff like that. Again, these have their own formats. These are, I think, they're compressed with zlib, and maybe use Marshall dump. And I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look into the scripts. I don't know. I think you can use something like load data, something like this. Is equal to load data and then your file name. Should open the data, read it, and give you a hash out of it. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but I am pretty sure that's how it should be. Yeah. Oh man, my neck is cramping up. This position, this awkward new position. Yeah, what was it saying? But yeah, definitely. It's going to come down to your creativity and how much of the previous knowledge of Ruby in general that you have. Because like I've illustrated right here, the only thing you're doing is pretty much you're retrieving strings. So the PHP is going to it's going to echo everything from the database as a string. Yeah, you can use the file.open and then Marshall load, but again, it depends for what data. For example, save data is using Marshall load and it's got to be proper sequence and stuff like that. And shorthand for is load data. Yeah. Should be hash. Yes. Is what I'm thinking as well. Again, wow, what a nice way to ramble in a tutorial, I guess. I mean, again, for noobs, by noobs. Let's be noobs together. No, it's gonna depend on the finding. It's gonna depend on finding good services that do this shit for me. I mean, the only important thing, I think, is the finding a web host. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure the Byte host I used to use before, it offers I think you can have one database on your free Byte host account. If I'm not mistaken, it also uses cPanel. I'm pretty sure you can use, you get one database by default, and you got all this PHP stuff and this kind of nonsense. What else? Free hosting, free www free hosting, if I could type hosting.com. This is the web host I'm using. They have a paid solution and they have a free one. These guys have a nice free package, but you have to have your own domain name. So they don't offer free domain names. You're going to have to either buy from them or have an existing one and just transfer it over, something like that. That is for your questions that hasn't been answered. Sure thing. If anyone's got anything else while we're still here together, let me know. Because I think I've done what it is that I wanted to do. Again, sorry for the lack of structure. Sorry for the mess up at the beginning. Yeah, I know. Nice, no mic at the beginning. Database not working. I don't know if I want to edit. Nah, I probably don't. The whole reason why I'm actually doing a stream and not a full tutorial video is because I don't feel like rendering it. The last video took, I think, upwards of 6 hours to make. It took about 4 something hours to edit, but then another 6 hours to render. You can use WOMP and do it from home, or get a VPS and do it from there. Again, I don't know. I know, for example, you can download MySQL Express from Microsoft, and you can set up a local database for your own local network, but that's local. Nobody else is going to have access to that except for you and all the devices connected in your local network. And yeah, that's not that great of a solution. I mean, I'm alright, am I gonna have to pay? Depends on the quality of service you want to receive. If you want good service, yes. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to pay. Pretty much nothing is free. Eventually, you end up paying for it, whether or not with your soul, your energy, your money, your time. you pay for everything, man. Yeah, man. Damn, tough times. But let me reiterate again then. Just to, I don't know, reinforce the general, what's his face, knowledge right here. My recommendations would be to separate the database handling requests and everything like that in its own module right here. Again, I've said I'm going to post these scripts are going to be up and they're going to be linked in the description and they're going to be on Discord or whatnot. All three of these. So several layers. You have your client, which is these two. You want to separate your database requests into a separate module or a class if that's your thing, but module is nicer because it's always available. It's just a namespace. It's very nice. So you want to separate stuff into module. I mean, you don't have to, but ideally you want to. Because you want to be able to access this module no matter what scene or what script you're in. You want everything to be the same and constant throughout your whole session. And you pretty much want to organize everything nicely, you know, so it's all in one convenient spot and you don't have to look for everything all over the place. Which can happen at times if you don't organize your scripts very well. Then you have the next layer, which is going to be the PHP script itself. The PHP script is going to take your post requests. It's going to analyze it depending on the logic you write in it. Again, link in the description. Please check out the PHP tutorials, learn the language. I mean, you're gonna have to pick it up if you want to do this kind of stuff, but apart from the fact that it's a gross language, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. For example, the inconsistencies, man. Wait, that's not, where's my cursor? That's not what I wanted, man. The inconsistencies for PHP, they drive me. For example, let's say this, right? Let's say we have a new array and we're going to go array. We're going to define this as an array, right? And you want to push something into the array. So, okay, that's fine. You go array underscore push. You're going to push into the array called array, and you're going to push a value of 1. Super. Now we're going to get 1 into our array. But does the array, if we want to check like if the array includes something, you go in underscore array. And then you check for the value first, this time, and then the array name. And like, why you do this to me, you know? Why? Why can't you just keep the order of things and the naming conventions constant, you know? That's like my only, I don't know, my only issue I have with PHP. Other than that, it's pretty simple. But you want to keep in mind that you need to point to a certain server name. You need to access it with a certain username, with a certain password. You want to access a certain database. You want to initialize the connection. You do want to test for, maybe you don't, maybe you do. I do. I usually test for the connection because then you can kick your client out and say, bro, you're not connected to the interwebs. Shoo. Right? So you click it. Or if there's a faulty thing in your database, I mean, this can happen as well. And then the reason, like I said, I want to split it into types so that it's easier to do later, like this. So you can process it in a nice conditional branch here. And yeah, your logic is handled in the PHP and your database itself is an SQL database, PHP-MyAdmin. Very simple, very simple. You insert stuff in here. You can check the structure right here for the different stuff. So you can change the data type later on. Conveniently as you wish. So yeah, there's cool stuff you can do, and depending on how complicated it is, I mean, you can even go into designer mode and then you can see all your different tables, and you can do it graphically right here or not, and then you can add relations, create relationships between, this ID and this ID. But for that, you need foreign keys. And again, if you're really interested in the hardcore specifics of SQL and databases in general, I suggest clicking on that link in the video description below. What's this guy saying? Okay, thank you. That is for my request. You can use one, but I'm gonna have to pay. There are free services such as just DM on Discord, Marin. Yeah, Marin. Come on, man. But I'm again, don't quote me on this, but I think bithost.com, or is it bethosting.com? One of those. My previous web server, web host, I think they offer they offer PHP and database solutions for free, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they do. But yeah. Okie dokes. I mean, the turnout, and unfortunately, the turnout for the live stream wasn't that big. I was hoping, because I know I'm going to get comments. Oh, how can I do this? How can I do that? And people are going to just spam the comments of this video. You know, how to do this, how to do that. I'd much prefer to solve it live on stream instead. But yeah, I mean, that's life. Because the thing is, the reason why I'm actually doing this thing right here, the farewell stream, the final thing, is because I'm going to go radio silent completely. Yes. No more Twitter, no more YouTube, nothing. No more Discord. Bye-bye, guys. So, yeah, I'm not joking. It's been something that's been on my mind for a while. So, yeah. I'm pretty much... I have a few things I need to finish up still, and after I'm done with those few things, I'm just gone from the scene. No more internet, Luca, unfortunately. Everything else that's been uploaded so far, so the UPI will continue running. Everything will be available for download. In case I see some improvements or want to add some new features, I just basically want to play around with some more RGS stuff. I'm going to update the UPI whenever I feel like it. But yeah, that's I mean, for my future presence, that's going to be it. Unfortunately, I'm removing myself from this environment. I think it's time. I know I've said, because with my one of my friends, he's like, "Oh yeah, you're just pulling this as a PR as a PR stunt," which is funny. What was I going to ramble on about? Yes. So the thing is, I've published that video a while back ago. I will be available for some DMs. Don't get me wrong. If I get some spicy DMs, I'll reply to spicy DMs. But if you're just coming at me, oh dude, UPI is not working, or EBS, or how do I do this, shooks. I'm shooks. Because I've said, I think I posted the video a month and a half ago. I said I'm going to stop with the fan game content. And for the most part, I did. I said I was going to leave most of the Discord servers, and I did. I'm not going on the Relic Castle forums anymore and stuff like that. But now I'm taking this extra step to completely, get away from the internet, basically. I need, for my own psyche, I need to take a break from the internet. Yeah. I need to find a Zen solution for myself and not be too concerned with all of this. So I'm going to comment stuff like this. Fetches the type of post to process in logic later. So I'm just writing down the comments because this is going to go up as well. Retrieves or gets, I don't even know how to spell anymore, gets a string with all the red contents from table. Adds new row to table and modifies existing data in table by ID. That's it. Face reveal. Nah, Marin, you're not getting it. It's been an honor. Yeah, thanks, man. It's been an honor participating here as well. I mean, I've learned a lot throughout my years, and it's been cool. It's definitely been a fun ride, but before you go, I want to make a subfolder inside my modular menu, like have an option to take you to a whole screen. Unfortunately, this is not what this stream is about. This you're going to have to figure out on your own. You're asking me to make specific modifications on one of my specific scripts, which I usually don't do anyway. So yeah, this is definitely not the place to ask, and excuse you about that. And what did we say? This, we're going to comment this for closes the connection. Sends query. Here as well, sends query appends data to string and posts to client. And then again, sends query. So I think this should be the nice documentation for everything, right? Yeah, and this is again very simple here as well. And let's comment these out as well. URL, the post is being made to, simple function to group posting to the actual URL, function used to add row to table, specific table. Okay, so we got this commented, and yeah, I'm pretty much done with the stream. If anyone else has something quick they want to shoot, that's fine. If not, this thing is going to be up on the channel indefinitely. I'm going to do my best to actually timestamp everything as well. So we're going to have timestamps, proper timestamps. I know I didn't follow my bullet points in order exactly, but it should be more or less the same. We've made plenty of mistakes. We've had issues. That's fine. I was a scrub again. Like I said, this is all just, I just wanted to showcase that it's very simple to make simple functionality, which should go without a saying. But it only takes a few minutes to really make some kind of online stuff with databases and essentials, and it's extremely simple. I think you can do it. And again, I'm not an expert on this. This is just something that I don't know, I decided to, I guess, look into. But yeah, that's it. How much was, for the fullest extent of, was it worth it? How much was, so it's not just thing. So for my host, I'm paying $8 per month. And personally, I don't think that's much. That like translates to 50 Croatian kunas per month here. And I mean, if you go to McDonald's, you'd spend that much on a meal. So I guess it's not too much to spend on a monthly basis. But yeah, $8 per month for the entire package. So you get everything in here, everything that we've seen from cPanel basically. You get everything. So I get unlimited, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited disk space, unlimited email accounts, unlimited FTP accounts, unlimited SQL databases, add-ons. Which is really nice. Unlimited subdomains, which I love. You can do all kinds of nice subdomains on your thingy right here. Yeah, $8 per month gets you pretty much the entire hosting solution for everything you could possibly want. And their servers are incredibly responsive. So free hosting, from the experience I've had so far, you can, if you have problems, you can submit tickets. They quickly respond to you. They respond to you really in a timely manner. Of course, if you're paying, I mean, it's in their interest to keep the clients. But yeah, they have a very nice customer support system. They offer you great bandwidth. They even, so if you opt in to go for the paid solution, you get your own dedicated server. So they move you like to your own individual resources so that you're not competing with anyone else. So it's great for bandwidth, for speed, and for everything else. I'm very satisfied with the solution that I have with them. I would highly recommend them to anyone else who wants to do something like that. I do recommend reading their terms of service, their fair use policy, because they do have something that could catch you off guard if you don't check those closely. But for the most part, they offer really nice stuff. And for me, like having an unlimited amount of subdomains, I love it. I just love it. You can do all kinds of subdomains. But the more expensive part is, but then again, it doesn't factor too much because you're paying it yearly. So you're paying $15 per year to register your domain name, and you're paying $10 additionally for ID protection. So it's $25 per year. Again, that's not much on a monthly basis, and I think factor this in with the $8 you pay per month. I mean, solutions like Squarespace, of course, I think they do offer more like business and professional content and stuff like that. But I mean, you get all kinds of cool stuff in here. You don't even need to write your own HTML code and stuff like that. You have the whole, what's it called? The Softaculous apps installer. You got a website builder right here that you can use to create your own website thingy. You got WordPress, Joomla. You've got pretty much everything that you could possibly need. You get PHP, BB, MyBB, so you can make your own forums and stuff like that. So yeah, the packages are there. The packages are nice. You can get all kinds of nice stuff as well. So I think everything is nice. Yes. Will you still be around to talk Cyber Dragons? What do you take me for, an amateur? I'm always, so if somebody slides into my DMs to talk about anime or Cyber Dragons, I'm always responding. And other Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, sure. Yes, definitely. You missed most of this, Toby. Well, it happens, but the video will be archived with nice timestamps, so you'll get to enjoy it a bit later. But yeah, it's not too expensive. It's not too hard on the wallet when it comes to this kind of stuff. Of course, I mean, for good stuff you're going to have to pay, unfortunately, but again, $8 for pretty much everything that you could possibly need, I think it's worth it. And so far I haven't had a single problem. I have my own registered domain now, which is really nice. Again, infinite subdomains, infinite databases, infinite everything. I'm going to look into why my previous database wasn't created, or maybe it's got to do with my admin user not being, I don't know, authorized to do, or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this live stream, and that's going to be it for every live stream, unless something spectacular happens and I miraculously come back. But yeah, this was a farewell sort of deal. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you didn't, shame on me, I guess. But yeah, I try to explain this as crudely as possible, as simply as possible, and with the most simplest of functionality that you're mainly going to be using on a daily basis if you opt for something like this. But of course, again, I'm going to say it again. I advise you to, if you want to pick this up, I advise you to go read some SQL tutorials, some PHP tutorials, because there's so much more that you can do. This is what we've done today is maybe 0.00001% of what you can actually do with databases. But yeah, for those of you that were here, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this wasn't too bad. And yeah, you guys take care, and good luck with your future endeavors in your projects or wherever you may end up. I really do wish you guys, the best when it comes to your future projects, your current projects, your hobbies in general, anything else. And yeah, that's going to be it. So bye bye.